Hello. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about one of the biggest signs of my autoandrophilic sexual orientation from a young age. As an adult, I can look back and be like, wow, that was definitely pretty formative because it provided me positive feedback. I enjoyed doing it. I think that's why it just stuck with me. I enjoyed doing it because of my autoandrophilia. So that thing that I did, it's like my favorite thing to do in childhood, was imaginary play. I have a feeling, and I feel like I've heard around the autohead communities and stuff, that many autoandrophilic people are going to relate to this. I really want to say most, actually. For me, whenever I played my little, imaginary games in childhood, the reason that I loved them so much, no matter who I played with, I would have a boy character in whatever game I was playing. I just found it very exciting to pretend to really channel this and create this boy as a character in whatever game I was playing. And that stuck with me still to this day. It's slightly changed now as I've gotten older, but it's still pretty much the same, which is absolutely crazy. But cool, and proof that this orientation does exist in females. Yeah, I found a lot of excitement in pretending I was a boy in these play pretend games as I was growing up. During childhood, obviously it wasn't sexual. It felt more like an adventure, but there was an element to it that was very focused on the male body specifically. I don't think that I always wanted to play the boy character, but I think that it happened enough for me to look back and just be like, yeah, man, that was some crazy stuff. That was definitely my budding autoandrophilia. So kind of as a autoandrophilia overview, because I talked a lot about autogynephilia in my first video. Autoandrophilia is the desire to be male, and that can look a lot of different ways. It's looked a lot of different ways for me. Most of the time, it's more complex and more layered than just, I wish I was a dude. No. It's very specific. Sometimes I wish I was a girl with male parts. I think that would be really cool. That's my autoandrophilia, or connected to it. I was a maladaptive daydreamer for a long time. That's a whole nother topic, but it's basically where my sexuality thrives. Alright. So, in my daydreams are extremely autoandrophilia, filled, okay? And they're not just sexual daydreams. They have a sexual aspect, but they're very much emotional, and I daydream as a way of escapism. I daydream to cope with my borderline personality disorder and obsessive compulsive disorder and complex trauma and just neurodivergence in general. So, all of that. And my autoandrophilia, I can express it in however I feel, whatever I feel like. Whatever scenario, whatever character I feel like creating, whatever kind of male-related desire that I want to express. So it can look a lot of different ways. This is not an exhaustive list, but in addition to the girl with male parts, there's another common theme in my daydreams, and that's where I'll create a character who's either who's AFAB, so female body, assigned female birth, but like she's either like, maybe she's like non-binary, you know, like kind of androgynous. I think she's supposed to be like me, bisexual slash like, kind of just like incorporating masculine aspects into how she holds herself, you know, how maybe she's like kind of like well muscled and like slightly more masculine body while still being a female. In this daydream, she will have this sort of like supernatural connection to this male character who has a lot of like a fantastical story. So like he might be like an ancient like king, or like a dead like ghost man who's like trying to piece his body back together, and he needs the girl to find all the pieces of his body, and they're like attached psychologically through like some like magical force or whatever. And so like they can feel what the other feels emotionally. In my daydreams, it's just like emotionally, but the implication for me is also like, you know, physically, bodily, like sexually, all that. So, yeah, there's that. It's just this sort of like this connection that is so intense and they're so like powerfully and like magically, otherworldly connected. It brings me a lot of like satisfaction to just daydream that, because it's like, wow, I get to experience that connection with maleness through my daydreams, which is really, really addictive and very like powerful. Like sometimes it feels like a drug. There have been times where like I feel like so much gender euphoria that I literally feel like I've been sedated. Like, I wish I was kidding, because that's insane. I'll feel so calm, so relaxed. So the idea to me that like men, or male-bodied people even, but especially men, the idea that like they can just walk around and not feel like intoxicated by their own, like their bodies and just their mind, is just their like consciousness, is like, it's kind of insane to me. It's like, how can they do that? You know? I imagine a lot of autoandrophiles feel the same way as I do about women. Like, how can they just walk around existing and not feel completely like just intoxicated all the time because they are a woman? Like, it's insane, but it's a real part of this sexual orientation. And so I would get some sort of like thrill from like trying to kind of just like hide my boy character from the girls that I was playing with. It's very, very autoandrophilic, which it does very much exist. So autoandrophilia is a sexual orientation, an attraction to the desire to be male, idea of being male, or something specific about like male that you associate with maleness. And it has a sexual component where there is sexual arousal involved in embodying. For autoandrophiles, it's maleness. For autogynephiles, it's femaleness. Right? But like, that's just an inherent part of the sexual orientation. It's not a fetish. It's not a kink. Despite what all the conservative, Republican, trans, and lesbian, and commentators are saying, okay, you know who I'm talking about. Do not believe what they say about autogynephilia specifically. It's not true. So, oftentimes in my imaginary games, as a child, I would be playing with fellow girls. Sometimes, not all the time, but like sometimes, they would play, like, if I was playing the boy, I'm sure I did play the boy always, right? But like, if I was playing the boy character, they would play the girl character. And like, the story would be, you know, they fall in love. So this leads into something that I think I want to try and at least brush the surface of, meta attraction. wherein I and autoandrophiles like myself, I'll just say I am attracted to females, but because I don't choose to be attracted to them, by the way. It's not a conscious decision at all. It's not like I'm around them and they're like, oh, I choose to be. No. I have had extremely intense, very, very intense attraction to girls in the past, when I was in high school, especially. Because when I was around them, I would feel like it would almost like affirm a sense of like a male, like a boy inside me. It sounds super weird. The more people I've talked to who are autogynephilic and autoandrophilic, who have such similar experiences to me, like it's actually fucking insane, the more people I talk to who are autoheterosexual, the more I'm like, I think that like playing these childhood games didn't cause my sexual orientation to be autoandrophilia. I think I was already kind of predisposed to developing autoandrophilia. It was simply a thing that gave me happiness, and like fascination, and exploded in my imagination. So I have to go to work, but yeah, we'll see how many more I make.